Could it really be that simple that Bitcoin is sandwiched between two very key weekly levels, and this translates into the reaccumulation area that we tend to see around old all-time highs, as we've seen across cycles in the past? And on a more micro level, this is the pre-halving, retrace, and reaccumulation areas phases in the Bitcoin cycle playing out. So let's talk about this and a lot more, as well as the Pi cycle top indicator and how all of these perspectives gel in together to provide us a cohesive perspective on Bitcoin's price action. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Like this video if you enjoy content like this going forward, and let's dive right into it. So this is the weekly range currently for Bitcoin, and it has began by a rejection from old all-time highs. We saw the pre-halving retrace 18%, but nonetheless we were able to find a support at the candle-bodied old all-time high. So this is the upside wicking old all-time high, and here's the candle-bodied one, giving us a weekly range that we've simply been consolidating within, upside wicking towards the upside and downside wicking towards the downside. But now Bitcoin is actually pressing beyond this range high resistance, which is the confluent resistance with the old all-time high region, and a weekly close, or at the very least a retest of this level as a new support, would confirm the breakout, and it would confirm that this pre-halving retrace phase is over. So this is all just short-term noise, giving us more additional insight into this reaccumulation era that tends to occur around the old all-time highs. We see rejection from the old all-time highs, then we revisit it 3 years later and consolidate here a bit. And sometimes those periods are a bit more volatile. In 2017, we saw upside movement, downside movement, a lot of shaking out of investors before inevitably just enjoying price expansion. Same in 2013, although we never really saw much volatility around this period. But generally speaking, this sort of reaccumulation at old all-time highs, this is just a bit of turbulence before we finally enjoy price discovery for Bitcoin's price action. And to better understand how this general macro reaccumulation range at old all-time highs is occurring, these two phases in the Bitcoin halving cycle can help us understand what's going on, because historically we've seen the pre-halving retrace 19% in 2020. We saw 18% already take place, and this pre-halving retrace tends to get us into reaccumulation, and we've seen reaccumulation at these highs for the time being. Is it over? Once we turn the old all-time highs into new support, that's when it's going to be over, and we'll see further upside. For the time being, we don't have confirmation on that, and so we might be still seeing some reaccumulation going on for Bitcoin's price action. But this reaccumulation can be ended with a breakout beyond this old all-time high resistance. So we are seeing reaccumulation right now, and what's interesting about this reaccumulation period is that it's occurring at the green moving average, that is the Pi cycle moving average. And what's very interesting about this is that this is where we're consolidating and rejection, and if we zoom in here, consolidation around here, upside deviation, rejection from this green moving average. This tends to occur across cycles, and if you compare this data point in this cycle, for instance, with this one in the previous cycle of 2020 to 2021, just look at how this consolidation just below this moving average really just ties in to this data point, right? And the fact that this old all-time high level here is confluent with the Pi cycle moving average is pretty phenomenal, and that isn't just the case in the previous cycle of 2020 to 2021, but also in this cycle as well, because these old all-time highs are forcing a rejection, are forcing a reaccumulation period, and it's also confluent with the green Pi cycle moving average. So let's see if we do repeat history in this sense, that we just form a reaccumulation area at these highs. I don't think we're going to see a rejection from this green moving average like we saw in the pre-halving year of 2019. I don't think we're going to see much of a rejection like we saw back in 2017. These were quite sharp rejections, and 2013 saw a sharp rejection once again as well, we may be seeing some rejection as we've seen thus far. We've seen a 18% pullback as part of the pre-halving retrace, but that's probably as deep as we'll go really. Generally speaking, probably reaccumulation just like what we're seeing right now, and we'll be able to move towards the upside with time. Generally, it is reaccumulation over here with some pulling back, but over time we should be able to progress beyond the green moving average, and when we do, we see fantastic upside. Just notice how we see fantastic upside once the green moving average is broken quite convincingly. 2017 showcases the same thing here, and 2013, as we can see, breaking beyond the green moving average, pulling back a little bit, but then breaking beyond it again. And this is where we tend to see great trend acceleration. So breaking that green moving average has already translated into parabolic upside, and the key here is that parabolic post-halving upside. This Bitcoin halving phase tends to occur only after the halving and multiple weeks after the halving, so it will be very interesting to see how this continues to play out for Bitcoin, because historically speaking, we shouldn't see this parabolic upside until a few weeks or even a couple of months after the halving. So once we break beyond these old all-time highs, we're going to enter price discovery and that parabolic upside, which would really just considerably shorten the pre-halving phase, the reaccumulation phase, and take us to new all-time highs into a parabolic rally, which has never been done before. And that is understandable because we are seeing the ETFs play in to the price action. We're seeing this halving play into the price action. We're seeing two major catalysts really impact Bitcoin's price action, and thus far we've seen that this cycle is a story of reaccumulation, multiple reaccumulation ranges developing here, and in this uptrend, the goal is to try and spot these reaccumulation errors beforehand. So around 2020, spotting this reaccumulation error has of course proceeded downside, so pulling back in the form of a 19% retrace and then consolidation later on. So these reaccumulation ranges are going to form in the future, even in price discovery. And it's really important to try and accumulate on these reaccumulation errors. Those are going to offer the pullbacks, but also once we see those pullbacks, we'll also see reaccumulation at the highs. And so with this current reaccumulation range, we saw 18% downside, and now we're back to try and break out from here. But if we fail and reject from this range high here, so those are the old all-time highs of 69K, we could still see sinusoidal price action going into the halving. So at the moment, we don't have a confirmed breakout, but we know what a confirmed breakout will look like. And that's a retest of the 69K region as a new support. And that would enable overextension beyond this green moving average, as we've seen on the Pi cycle moving average indicator many times in the past. But also just looking at this historical price behavior, once we clear old all-time highs, we'd see price expansion. We'd see price expansion to new all-time highs. And so this reaccumulation range at these highs is just noise, preparing us for the greater move. And it's a matter of when rather than if, and it's also a matter of time, because the more we can consolidate here, the more opportunity for bargain buying we have before we inevitably embark on that fantastic move towards the upside. So any pulling back, any consolidation around here, those are the final bargain buying opportunities before we enter that parabolic upside. Historically, that parabolic upside should occur after the halving and multiple weeks or even a couple of months after the halving. But do we get an accelerated cycle where we just skip and shorten each of those phases? That remains to be seen. Nonetheless, this is, as history has shown, this is prime real estate for some buy orders and dollar cost averaging, and it gets even more prime if we see any pulling back and rejections from this current level of 71K or 70K. Any rejections from this point will enable further upside going forward, which is why it's worth paying attention to those reaccumulation ranges and really trying to reaccumulate during them. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Like this video if you enjoy content like this going forward. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak to you soon.